If you haven't seen my reaction to Xenoblade Chronicles 3 at the Nintendo Direct that recently happened, please make sure you go check out that video. I did a live reaction to this whole show, to everything. That's all up on the channel. So if you want to see anything that I've already done when it comes to Nintendo Direct live, my reactions, it's on the channel. Now, I clipped a whole separate Xenoblade Chronicles 3 live reaction by itself as well. That's up, and I'll also post a few more of those in the future, so you'll see what I have to say about Fire Emblem and everything. But this video is about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This video is about Monolith Soft. This video is about everything that we already know that's been revealed about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and what is going on. Also tying it back to some rumors that were correct, and of course what's going to happen with this game. There is a lot of information to go over, but I can already tell based off of that original trailer, as somebody who is a huge Xenoblade fan. I'm like a mega fan of Xenoblade. I always try to do as much as possible in every single game. I've played every single Xenoblade game. Heck, you can even go beyond Xenoblade. I'm just a huge Monolith Soft fan. I pretty much have or have played every single Monolith Soft title out there. So I'm a huge fan of the Monolith Soft way of doing RPGs and games, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3 to me seems like this is going to be their greatest creation that they've ever done. I think that is probably the most expensive, it's their biggest, and it's going to be the best thing that they've done because they've taken what they've learned from Xenoblade Chronicles 1 or the Definitive Edition and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and also Torna, and a little bit of X dashed in there as well when it comes to tech, when it comes to storytelling, when it comes to graphics, everything, and combined it all together and put out the classic Monolith Soft style of dialogue and gameplay. I think that this is going to be the best game when it comes to the Nintendo Switch. I think it's going to be one of the best games. I think it's going to be the best Monolith Soft game and easily the best Xenoblade game as well, which is a tall task because Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is really good, and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torn of the Golden Country are really good games, but you can tell that this is just on another level, and this game took them literally 4 to 5 years to make, and more trending on the 5 years to make as it's launching this year in September, which we'll talk about that announcement. But what I first want to do is go into everything that we do know about this game, and then also a very special and important message from Takahashi at Monolith Soft. First, the overview via Nintendo. A vast world awaits in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, the next game in the acclaimed RPG series from developer Monolith Soft. Players will step into the roles of protagonists Noah and Mio amid turmoil between the hostile nations of Heves and Angus. 6 characters hailing from those nations will take part in a grand tale with life as its central theme. Explore a new world that will connect the futures of both Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade Chronicles 2, launching on the Nintendo Switch in September 2022. And look at how they use that wording of connect the futures. Remember, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, future connected, so there's definitely going to be some ties across the board when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And I'll also note for those that are already going to ask in the comment section, should I play Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and should I play Xenoblade Chronicles 2 before I play this one? Yes, you should play Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and also Xenoblade Chronicles 2. They're both available on the Nintendo Switch, and I would even throw in Torna in there as well, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torna of the Golden Country, which you can get on the Nintendo Switch, whether that's a separate one or through the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 DLC. It's a standalone and it's also DLC as well. Now here's a message from Takahashi-san, and it's so good to hear his words, but what he has to say here is very important to the overall, I would say, hints or clues about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and what we can expect out of this game. Hi everyone, this is Tetsuya Takahashi from Monolith Soft. Just over 4 years since the release of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and 1.5 years since the release of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, we now bring to you news regarding the latest game from Monolith Soft, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. As the name indicates, it's the 3rd installment in the Xenoblade Chronicles series. We are currently making final adjustments to ensure we create the best game possible based on everything we've learned from the past entries in the series. The key visual features a broken greatsword of the Mechanis and the body of the Urian Titan with a gaping wound. I imagine everyone who saw the trailer was quite surprised by the final scene. What is this visual hinting at? I can't reveal that just yet. What I can tell you is that this visual was conceived quite some time ago. More precisely speaking, we came up with it sometime between the end of the development of Xenoblade Chronicles and the beginning of the development of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So it's not something we recently added to the series. And I want to talk about that later. We're going to expand upon that. We believe the game will be enjoyable for both those who've played Xenoblade Chronicles or Xenoblade Chronicles 2, as well as those who will be playing a Xenoblade Chronicles game for the first time. Now, all of the previous character designers from Xenoblade Chronicles and the Xenoblade Chronicles series are all in there. It's actually really impressive that they're bringing everybody back. And also the music, Yasunori Mitsuda and a lot of the previous Xenoblade Chronicles composers and people who have done the music. It's really cool to see everybody they've brought back from Ace and everything. So once again, link in the description, or I'll have a post up so you can see all the different people that are coming back for this one. Now, the music in this game maintains the unique Xenoblade Chronicles touch while also taking on a new challenge, namely that of integrating a flute-based melody as its motif. The flute is actually one of the key themes in this game. A variety of other elements and themes are hidden in the trailer, and we'll be revealing the details a bit at a time going forward. And I'm going to go through that trailer so much as well, probably in the weeks leading up to more information, maybe E3 and everything. Now, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is a new adventure bringing together the worlds of Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 to take players into the future. While there's still some time left before the release of the game, I hope you'll look forward to it. So in the trailer, there were so many people kind of going back and forth on who's in this game. What we do know is that Nia seems to be in, Melia seems to be in. Some people were saying, well, Rex is in the game, and some people were saying Zeke is in the game and all of that. But I know about Nia, and I also know about Melia and maybe some of those other ones. So you guys can let me know more about that in the comment section. And I've watched this trailer over so many times. So let's go ahead and talk about, first and foremost, what is this striking thing about this game more so than anything is that it's probably the most visually impressive game on the Nintendo Switch, just like Xenoblade Chronicles X was the most visually impressive game, in my opinion at least, on the Wii U, because that game was such a large game and had such a detailed map and detailed characters, but a great art and aesthetic to it. That's how Xenoblade X was, and this game seems to be a fusion of some of the character designs that they had from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, kind of have like that anime aesthetic, but then also give it more of that grittier tone and less bright than Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was, more of like X. So I think that they're taking the best of what they've done with Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Xenoblade Chronicles X, and mixing it all together. Now, what you can also notice from the trailer as well is the engine that it's running on. Now, originally, Xenoblade Chronicles X, they created a brand new engine for the Wii U for that game on there. They ported that engine over for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and then in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Torn of the Golden Country, they continued to make improvements for that, just updates to the engine, and they also hinted like, hey, this is definitely going to be what we're doing in the future as well. And now you can see the fully realized engine that they finished working on after Torn of the Golden Country, with pretty much all of the updates, or pretty much all of them from what we can see so far, and the game absolutely looks spectacular. I don't think there's another Japanese RPG on the Nintendo Switch that looks anywhere near as good as this game. And it's so funny because we're coming up with Pokemon Legends Arceus, where so many people were upset about the graphics, and then we're going to this as the next big open-ended game on the Nintendo Switch first party wise, and it's absolutely incredible what they've done here. But then again, it took them 5 years to do all of this because they've been working on it since the end of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And even that, with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, the main Takahashi team wasn't on that game, because you heard what he had to say there. Concept at least was from the end of Xenoblade Chronicles, which was done in 2010 in Japan, and Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which was finished in 2017 when it comes to a worldwide release. So somewhere in between there, Takahashi Team 1 has been working on this game. So heck, it might even be more years when it comes down to it, but I think it's all gonna pay off because this game just looks absolutely incredible. I love the character designs, and I think that some things that people will be excited about, obviously they don't have as much revealing character designs as Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which did drive some people away from playing the game. I still wish that people played the game, because once you get past that, it's still a very good game. I didn't mind it as much as other people did, but at the same time, now you have a bit more safe character designs, and I think that it's a bit more, I would say, serious when it comes down to it. So this is really, really good, and they'll probably put the other type of fan service type of stuff as like DLC or extra stuff like they've done before, like in Xenoblade X or something like that. So for me, what they're doing here is absolutely incredible, and I'm already convinced, even though that we haven't seen the gameplay, which we'll talk about right here. We've just seen a lot of the in-game or in-engine cutscenes that are based off of the rendering and the graphics engine. It's not CG or anything like that. That's how Xenoblade cutscenes are, and that's how the characters look when you also play the game as well. We haven't seen any of that outside of them just running. So we haven't seen any of the combat. We've seen gameplay because we've seen the traversal, what you're going to be able to kind of do in some of the different open-ended environments. There's swimming and everything like that. So we do know about that. What we didn't see is the actual combat, and I want to get into that right now at this point, because I think that the combat, they didn't show it for a reason, and the reason why they didn't show it is because it's not going to be like Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition or Xenoblade Chronicles 1. It's not going to be like Torna. You can tell just right there, just by like the parties and stuff like that. It's not going to have like the blade exactly stuff in terms of like the gacha system. I don't think it's going to have that based off of what we saw with the cutscenes, although that could change. But I do feel that it's going to be a mix or a hybrid of more of what we saw with Xenoblade X and some of the stuff in there, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and then a brand new element thrown into there. I do think that you're going to have more control over your character when it comes to actual weapon strikes, that you will be able to press the button and the person does the strike on there, and then they'll add in arts that you can use to do team up attacks or to do dual techs or triple techs, for lack of a better term, right now and at this point, or to break them and to launch them and to do different series staples when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles. So I do feel all that's going to happen, but I just feel they're going to give you more control over your character, and the flow of combat is going to be different. Because if it was going to be similar or somewhat like it, I think they probably would have shown at least a clip or two of that, since the game is launching in September. Now, I know that there's still a lot more time to roll up till then, and we could be having another direct in September. There's actually probably 2 directs coming in between based on when Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is launching. So they have 2 more big opportunities, or actually 1 more real big opportunity to market the game or to show off the game, which I think it will be, which will be at E3. They're going to have their E3 direct, and then also if it's a late September game, they could have a Nintendo direct before then and say, hey, the game's coming out here we go. But by that point, we're all going to be hyped, ready to go for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. But I do think that the battle system will be overhauled just a bit here, and I think that this will be the best Xenoblade Chronicles game based off of what I've already seen. And I know that seems premature, but as somebody who's been playing Xenoblade Chronicles for a long time, and I think that I just have an intrinsic feel for what Xenoblade is and the direction that's going to go as soon as I lock eyes with the game, something just tells me that we are in for something that we've never played before when it comes to Monolith Soft, when it comes to Xenoblade. I expect this to be their most grandest masterpiece when it comes to gaming. And I'm trying not to cap here, guys, when it comes down to it, or exaggerate. And I know I'm a huge Xenoblade fan. Obviously, I am. But I look at this trailer, and I've been watching this trailer over and over and over and over before I recorded this video. And the quality is such at a high point. It's at the highest point that I've ever seen for Monolith Soft. It reminds me of how I felt about Xenoblade Chronicles X. But instead of not having that story element that we got with that game, we're going to have the same huge open world, the same amazing graphics, but then also the story and the really good things from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. So to me, this is really them learning everything. This is them learning from Xenoblade Chronicles 1, Definitive Edition, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Torna, and all of that, and putting it into the best that they can do at this point. So I'm very excited for that. Now, I haven't discussed story too much when it comes down to it, because they just showed little bits and pieces there. But I'm not really someone who's going to talk about that a lot. I just know that it's going to be a Monolith Soft story, and it's going to be good. I've enjoyed every single Monolith Soft Xenoblade story, and heck, you can even say Xeno story. So Xenogears, Xenosaga, Xenoblade, they're all great stories. They all gel and flow, and I always have a blast going through and learning about the characters and what they're doing. But the powers in this game and what they've shown off just in those cutscenes just look incredible. Looks like there's a lot of creativity that's being shown, and a lot of creativeness when it comes to the character designs and the combat and what this game is going to entail and what it's going to do. So I love the fact that they're putting together everything. And this is the accumulation of just years of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears from Monolith Soft all into this project for us to play it. Now, I said this before when I talked about Monolith Soft, this being the best game, but I think that this is going to be the best selling Xenoblade game, hands down. This is going to get a lot more people into it, and it's going to take recognition as a major franchise for Nintendo, which I've talked about multiple times before, discussing what Xenoblade can do to become a major franchise. The last time that we heard about one was obviously we had Splatoon, and then also Fire Emblem. They talked about that being a major franchise for Nintendo where they really focus resources and efforts into the game. I think that Xenoblade, obviously, look at the quality of the game. They've invested a lot into this, but I think this is where this game actually gets the sales recognition, so it breaks that 3 million plus. The last Xenoblade game did 2 million, and pretty much it's went up each time. The original Xenoblade X was a little bit of a downturn, but only because of the Wii U, not because of the interest, because the game still, I think, almost sold 1 million or sold 1 million, and that was on the Wii U, which was tough because it was the Wii U and they didn't sell more than 14 million systems. But then they rebounded right back with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and that is the best-selling Xenoblade Chronicles game of all time at over 2 million units. And now you have a 100 million unit install base. You have much better visuals. I think that you're going to have a better story, or just as good of a story. You're going to have gameplay that really kind of suits more of the casual base in terms of getting them in, but also have the depth of a normal Xenoblade game. This is something that I think, based off of what I'm seeing here and based off of what Takahashi has stated about bridging the gaps with Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and taking it to the next level, and the amount of time that they've taken to make this game, I just feel that it's the perfect storm of everything that Xenoblade needs in order to take that next step. And like I said, I think that this is going to be the best Xenoblade game that any of us have ever played, and I think that this is going to do extremely well on the Nintendo Switch. So I'm very excited for it. We see the opportunities that Fire Emblem's getting now that it's selling. Three Houses sold really well, so it got a spin-off, Three Houses or Three Hopes, Fire Emblem Warriors. So I think that Xeno's probably the next in line for that after this down the line. So I cannot wait to see more on this game. I cannot wait to report on more information on it. And of course, I have other videos planned around Xenoblade Chronicles 3, discussing more about the characters, discussing about the lore, what we could get in the future, and kind of what's going on with the game, because I could talk about this game forever, clearly. But what are your thoughts when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles 3? How do you feel this game is going to shake out? What are your big takeaways from this newest reveal trailer or debut trailer? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and we will see you for the next video. Peace.